failure becomes career limiting very soon in the culture we have typically in our country. And that is what kills the curiosity, that is what kills the experimentation.
Massive pressure on HR executives to build an AI-ready workforce.
If you tried AI on one workflow, that doesn't mean that it will behave the same way on all the workflows. HR is still decoding the whole transition like you and me are decoding.
Artificial intelligence could just create 4 million new jobs. But big techs are just reducing their workforce.
AI is more business. It is less IT, more business. People don't understand this. AI does not replace humans. AI replaces laziness. AI replaces human complacency. AI replaces human overconfidence. AI replaces human decision fatigue. Which part can be amplified by tools? That is the real, hammer on the nail.
To the digital marketing section, it just started booming in last 10 years. Before that, when it was introduced, many organizations were hesitant to just accept the fact that it is going digital now.
Marketing was always at the forefront of measurement. How do you not get afraid because of the FOMO? Don't try to chase every new shiny toy. Don't try to chase every new tool. The same problems that AI is facing today, digital marketing has faced 5-7 years back. What is the problem?
Very few people are talking about small language model. What's your take on that?
When you're an owner of a small firm, you're very budget conscious. You cannot just burn big money on AI project and then realize, okay, what did I achieve out of it, right? The horses for courses strategy really works here. SLM is a brilliant innovation. It's more affordable. It's even more accurate if done properly. Leadership is not letting people go. Leadership is not asking HR to automate recruitment. Leadership is showing your organization how to implement AI in the right manner.
Measuring ROI for coaching and skilling programs is a tough thing. Your take on this, like what metrics do you think matter beyond attendance or satisfaction scores?
Yeah, so this is very pertinent question, very topical question.
Hello and welcome to the Unicorn Talks. In today's rapidly accelerating market, there's a huge gap between the promise of a new technology like artificial intelligence and the daily reality of making it work for your business. Our today's guest is someone who has built his entire career inside that very gap. I'd like to introduce Rahul Bambi, the founder and managing partner of Blitz Consulting and Coaching. His journey to this point is what's really key for our today's conversation. He has spent more than 2 decades on the front lines of business transformation, navigating some of the most complex industries out there, from telecom and FMCG to IT and media. What makes Rahul's perspective so grounded is that he's a true translator. He didn't just identify the problem. He left his corporate path to build the solution. That solution is Blitz Consulting and Coaching. So, for our viewers, whether you are an HR leader trying to design a skilling program or a C-suite executive trying to find the real world ROI in all this hype, Rahul is here to provide a clear, practical playbook. So, watch this podcast till the end. Rahul, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Parag. Thank you for having me here. And thank you for the nice introduction.
Okay, so just a random thought, right? We are seeing a huge trend toward what many experts call the platformization of learning and coaching. What do we mean by platformization is that, you see, we have so many platforms, education institutes who are just launching their apps and websites to get educated or get the degree or diploma. So just tell me one thing, where everything is getting digitized, standardized, and automated. But leadership development has always been such a deeply personal experience. How do you make sure Blitz remains at that forefront where it bespokes the tailored feel while still leveraging technology and scale?
Right. I think that's a great question. So the first point is that, technology is a great leveler. We must always remember that technology is not something to be afraid about. And, we've seen huge technology in edtech, in education. And I think that's been a great contribution. Gone are the days when you had to come from a privileged background to access education or access learning. Now, it's possible very much, especially in a country like India. People are from different socioeconomic, strata. Everybody cannot go to a renowned college. There are issues of access, there are issues of affordability. So my sense is that technology, first of all, democratizes, and whether it is the internet technology or whether it is the edtech, whether it is YouTube, whether it is all the mock portals. So basically, the biggest thing about success about this technology in the field of education is democratization and access. Today, anyone sitting in a village also can learn similar to a person sitting in MIT in US or person sitting in Harvard. So that is a big point. Now coming to where it doesn't work. Now business is complex. It needs real world skills. It needs practical exposure. So a lot of times I have seen this learning is theoretical, and this learning may not be practical. And this learning may not be even grounded in the day-to-day operational challenges which are faced by industries, which are faced by companies, which are faced by businesses. So the whatever gap you see, whether you call it as the skilling gap, whether you call it as the employability gap, the root cause is that the product is not ready. Whether that product, you could think of that product as a skill, or you could think of that product as an employee, doesn't matter. Point is that the buyer of that skill is not totally satisfied with what they are getting. So that is one kind of gap. The second kind of gap is that you know that the person who is skilling on these platforms does not even have any practical exposure of the industry that they want to get into. So in the sense that they don't know the right language to talk to, they don't have the right networks to get into. So a lot of, we can
Mhm.
say, pragmatism is needed. A lot of industry academia partnerships are needed. And that is where Blitz is a very strong entrant in this sphere. And of course, we are not the
Okay.
only one, but our approach is fresh because we are simplifying things. See, it's very easy to complicate things, and it's very easy to use jargon, show stylish decks in boardrooms, but it is
Yeah.
very difficult to bring change in reality on the ground. So that is where, so all our
Yes.
skilling modules are bespoke, all our training workshops are bespoke, and it's very important to get deep into the context of a learner, of an
Mhm.
industry, of a business, and then basis the context, basis the real challenges, make, productize your skilling pathway or your training pathway to something which
Mhm.
moves your capability. So learning on a platform does not necessarily move your capability, in short, and it is
Okay.
moving capability which brings results.
So it is about being simple, straight, and practical, not being the theoretical expert.
And focusing on end outcomes also. I mean, while learning is a process, you also have to be cognizant of the outcome. You have to begin with the end in mind, and you need to make sure that your skill is valued. It is not something which is there on a register or on an Excel sheet or a PowerPoint.
Mhm.
It has to be useful in real world.
You see, we just had a conversation before the podcast session. Like digitization is another thing, and artificial intelligence integration is something different. So right now, Gen AI, the Gen AI hype is growing rapidly, right? And the recent report shows that, well, like 74 to 80% of the Indian banks, for example, have AI proof of concept projects, and they have integrated AI for calling and a lot of their base operations. So, like, what are, like, how do you see that transformation? Like, is the market really ready, and how do we train our uh, our employees and the upcoming workforce for that?
So, while I'm not from the banking industry or the financial industry, but there is a reason you're seeing this trend. Like the Ernst and Young report that you mentioned, where no, there are two sides to the coin. See, uh, the data point that you mentioned, 74% of financial institutions are running a POC. That's a very encouraging data point, and that is fundamentally because you can say fintech has always been, financial industry has always been rich with data. They always have high quality structured. They have high quality structured data, which is like a gold mine. and they're sitting on years and years and years of transaction data. So for them, building a pipeline on top of that data is relatively easier than other industries. Second is that you see if those industries like banking, financial services, they employ some of the most financially literate people who know how to read data. So data literacy is very, very high. So see, those are the reasons that you see the financial industry always being at the cutting edge, whether it is digital transformation, whether it is information technology, whether it is artificial intelligence, and now even whether it is Gen AI as a content layer or as a wrapper, fintech will always be at the forefront of transformation. Also because see, it is to do with money. I mean, the entire value chain is to do with money. Whether you are an investor, whether you are dealing with stocks, or whether it's about internet banking, whether it is about UPI. No, and take a simple example. Now that most of the payments are happening through UPIs, and so you now have a new, attack vector for cyber, scammers and for hackers, where UPI fraud is increasing. So I mean, so once the industry has introduced a technology like UPI, which is like my first example, which is a great leveler, which is a great democratizer, in a few milliseconds or seconds, your payment goes through, right? And your work happens. At the same time, at the back end, you need those data scientists and those teams and your risk teams to be working on the fraud detection algorithms. And for that, you need core AI. You need core machine learning models and deep learning models. So it is both, you can say, the preparedness of the industry, the readiness of the industry, and it is
Mhm.
also, you can say, the necessity of that industry, to be safe, compliant, with the regulators like RBI, SEBI. It's a very regulated industry. So it has to adopt modern technology like AI. Now let's come to the second side
Mhm.
of the coin, which is that while 74% have done POCs, only,
Mhm.
only 20% of that sees goes to production. So, so there is still a reality there that every single pilot will not move to production.
Okay.
So there is a lot of work which still needs to happen, even in a very mature industry like financial industry. And that is where how to integrate Gen AI with traditional ML flows. How to, you can say, enhance the customer experience. How to make sure that now there is a DPDP reality. DPDP was, the act was enacted in 2023, and now the entire banking and financial system has to be compliant with DPDP. So, all your workflows have to be DPDP compliant. So, how do you do that? So, you need to be agile. You need to understand the recent laws, the latest laws, and you need to keep using technology, to also be regulation friendly, to become data compliant, be privacy preserving, and keeping all that in mind, enhance the customer experience.
So, like, banking has like always been the privileged one or the initial initiator of accepting or integrating new technology in their business.
Absolutely. So banking always has been at the forefront because, like I said, they have rich data, they have data pipelines, and they have employees who are data literate. So that the entire readiness thing that you brought in, that so they are, you can say, by structure, by preparation over the previous years, and by also previous adoption. See, automatically when you adopted, let's say, digital transformation, you are more ready for AI because you're more digitized, and you have already done that change management. You've already handled the human resistance. You already have certain process of transparency, and you have an organization, multi-layer organization, which really talks at the same in the same language. So that readiness helps. But the complexity which, let's say, Gen AI brings in is that the language keeps changing, the language keeps evolving. There are new terms, there are new concepts, there are new attack vectors, and there are new threats. So you have, and there are new laws. So you have to keep kind of being keep learning at it and keep being dynamic and agile and adaptive.
We have a LinkedIn report which highlights a massive pressure on HR leaders, the HR executives, which is like 86% of them being tasked by their managers or the CEOs to build an AI ready workforce. Like, see, this is kind of a comedy for me. But like, I've heard a lot of friends saying that they are instructed that do not use AI. This was 1 year ago. And now their managers are emphasizing that you must learn AI immediately. Like when it was in the initial phase, if you have just tested it and tried it for your processes, it could have helped you a lot, right? So like, how do we deal with that thing, and how HR executives are uh, like, how should they deal with this problem now?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Now, a disclaimer, I'm not from HR, but of course, my entire career I've dealt with HR. I've been a hiring manager. I've hired hundreds and hundreds of employees in my corporate journey. And even in my entrepreneurial journey, I'm hiring many co-founders, many employees. So let me take a step back and, kind of help you visualize from a bigger lens. So first of all, even though you, like you said, 1 year back you would have tried AI and all, and so you expect the employee to be more friendly, you expect the lesser resistance, you expect easier implementation, but it doesn't happen so easily. So let me explain you why. See, first of all, readiness on paper or pilot isn't really readiness in terms of your production or your entire workflow, your entire organization. That is one paradox that you're seeing, right? Like for example, let's say you had a 20-member HR team and two members tried AI. You still have 18 people who haven't tried AI. Similarly, then HR is complex. It does not have just one workflow. HR has multiple workflows. So if you tried AI on one workflow, that doesn't mean that it will behave the same way on all the workflows. Then I mean, all these reports that you read, actually they don't tell you that the guys who have tried AI, how many of them had success, how many of them feel confident. And you'll be surprised to know that research shows that only 1/3 of the people who actually tried AI feel confident. So in the sense that, see, you can do a lot of learning initiatives, you can do a lot of pilots, you can do a lot of experiments, but you have to see what is the completion rate, and you have to see the success rate. That requires a lot of groundwork on metrics, a lot of groundwork on process understanding, a lot of groundwork on alignment. And see, to be fair to HR, see, HR has suddenly got, you can say, thrown at the seat of action, and they're also like any other function. Like, it's not like they have some magic wand that they're suddenly more ready than supply chain, or more ready than finance, or more ready than marketing or sales.
Yeah.
But because of their functional area, they are the first in the line of fire, because because they handle human resource, they have to plan the organization design, they have to plan the skilling, and they're the first to get the training requirements, and they come under pressure, both ways. If the organization is right sizing because of AI, then also they come under pressure. The organization has to quickly add on a AI expert, then also they come under pressure. So to be fair to HR is still decoding the whole transition, like you and me are decoding the whole transition. Now there are three layers to this gap. The first is conceptual clarity. Like, see, AI is not just about knowing prompt engineering or just coding. Sometimes we think that, okay, hire a developer and he'll code my use case, and then that is AI. Or we will think that, okay, now my team knows how to write prompts and feed it to the LLM, and we're getting output from the LLM, and that is AI. It's not like that. 80% of the work in an organization to make it ready from an HR lens has to be on AI literacy and AI fluency. Mark those words: AI literacy and AI fluency. And that is what Blitz is all about. Blitz is all about AI literacy revolution and AI fluency revolution. Now, the second layer in the gap is capability design. Now, look at how traditional training works. Now, traditional training works always top down, always top down. Like, whether you do it in-house through your in-house L&D team, or whether you hire a vendor to do it. Typically, a CEO gives the brief to the HR head or the training head, and then the brief goes to the vendor. And I'll give you a classical gap example. Let's say you're in sales, and let's say your organization has planned a training. Now that training is on the GenAI architecture, and GenAI is driven by transformers. We all know that the core engine behind GenAI is transformers. Now imagine a sales guy. Now he will relate to it for the first 15-20 minutes. After that, the question is mine. I'm missing a client meeting for this training. I'm not in the field, and I'm sacrificing my sales time, and I don't even understand what I'm seeing. I mean, I don't care about the architecture beyond a point. Fine, I need to know 2-3 buzzwords. That's okay. Because I need to talk in the language of the technology. But finally, I need to understand how the technology is transforming my function. What is it doing to sales? How is my lead
Mm-hmm.
conversion going up? How are my emails to clients getting better? How is my
Yeah.
email marketing improving? And
Mm.
how am I making more contextual decks for the client? So that is the training you need for the sales guy. You don't need to torture your sales guy by making them sit for a 2-hour transformer architecture presentation. Now that is what happens when training is top down. That is when your training does not translate to any capability building. The third layer is that failure in any experimentation in the corporate world, especially, and even in small and medium organizations, is not seen correctly. Failure becomes career limiting very soon in the culture we have typically in our country. Barring a few startups, barring a few modern progressive organizations, majority of the organizations, failure is seen as career limiting, and that is what kills the curiosity. That is what kills the experimentation. So, there has to be a cultural change also. When we expect employees to be more AI ready and integrate AI in their workflows, they should be allowed some experimentation within guardrails without making the failure become career limiting for them. So there has to be a safety net, and there has to be some patience for the metrics, for the uplift to happen on your core metrics. Okay, so basically, very quickly, what is the playbook? How to solve this? So I would say that how Blitz designs this is in three concentric circles, in three loops. One is self-learning. Any department head, even the HR head or the L&D head, first you have to self-learn. First you have to do your homework. First you have to learn AI before giving gyan to your rest of the organization that you need to be AI literate or all that. So first experience the friction yourself. First experience the toughness yourself, and first experience the value yourself. Second, map capability to workflow, not to the designation. Now, the classical mistake HR does is that they pick up roles, they pick up designations, and they plan training or they plan skilling. That is completely wrong. It doesn't work in AI that way. You have to pick up use cases, you have to pick up workflows, and you have to train and skill using workflow design. That is when it will add to capability building. So you have to map capability to workflow, not to designation. You know, the third thing we do at Blitz is that you institutionalize a feedback and a reflection loop. And it's very important to reflect what is working, what is not working. So after a training batch, the key questions to ask are: what surprised you? What new did you learn? How do you think you can use this in your workplace? And that becomes a design for your next training or your next skilling. So it has to be a continuous learning loop, even for the trainers, even for the HR team. It cannot be a one-time exercise. Okay, I mean, you're reporting to the CEO that, I told you that I will train the 1,000 people that we have, and I have trained the 1,000 people that we have on GenAI fluency and finished. Nothing is going to change. You have to do, bifurcate it by workflow, by capability, and look at these self-learning loops, look at mapping capability to workflow design, and having an institutionalized feedback loop and reflection loop.
That was a deep explanation. And I guess our viewers will feel now like what they have to deal, like specifically the HR team. And why this question came in the list is because my one of my friend is in the HR and he is working in BPO sector.
See, the biggest thing in HR is recruitment. And the biggest thing in recruitment is that recruitment has a lot of biases. So how you implement AI in recruitment, while the automation part is
Mhm.
self-explanatory, that you'll use AI to shortlist resumes and to do keyword optimization as per the job description. That is not the challenge. The challenge is to eliminate bias
Okay.
from the recruitment process. So the difference in a person listening to this podcast, if let's say an HR manager or your friend is listening to this podcast,
Yeah.
what is important to learn is
Mhm.
that anybody can automate recruitment, but the way you have to do it is that the human in the loop, where the bias has to be questioned, reviewed, and possibly eliminated or at least mitigated. That is very important in recruitment design.
Speaking from another point of view, like there's a report from Niti Aayog which projects artificial intelligence could just create 4 million new jobs in India by 2030. Okay, so let's say in next 5 years. But it also warns that routine jobs are at risk. Like we are seeing this, a lot of companies like big techs are just reducing their workforce, like middle level management, which we heard news like just 2 days back about Amazon. And even TCS did the same. this month, and even Google did the same thing. So just tell me, like, people are not ready for it. The transition is happening at a rapid pace in the big techs. How do the small and medium sized firms deal with this, and will they be able to hire those individuals who were fired because they have some sort of experience and some sort of knowledge in the process?
Yeah, so this is a very good, very pertinent question, very topical question, and it requires a very calibrated answer. So you'll have to give me time, because you also understand this is very sensitive, right? This is a very sensitive question, and to deal it with sensitively, I have to get into a lot of detail, and I have to give you a lot of frames, a lot of lenses to view this problem. It's a big problem, right? And it's a real problem, and I think it's the heart of the you can say thought process that an employee has whenever the manager talks to an employee about AI. These thoughts are always going on parallelly in the mind, which I'm not judging why those thoughts are going in the mind, because you're human. Those thoughts, those insecurity will happen, but the point is that also
Yeah.
creates resistance, it creates friction, it slows down the AI initiative. So we have to really understand it from multiple lenses. You have to understand it as an employer, you have to understand it as an employee, you have to understand it as HR, you have to understand it as an industry analyst, as a consultant. So there are multiple lenses. So let me unpack this for you. So
Okay.
and I'll be very straightforward. See,
Mhm.
first, disclaimer: AI does not replace humans. AI
Okay.
AI replaces laziness. AI replaces complacency. AI replaces human complacency. AI replaces human overconfidence. AI replaces human decision fatigue. AI does not replace human directly. Please understand. That is,
Okay.
AI is not meant to replace humans. AI is meant to automate.
Mhm.
AI is meant to become smarter, take faster decisions. That doesn't mean that
Mhm.
you don't need humans. You still need human in the loop. You need human on the loop. You need human to design the AI process in the first place. So it's a multi-layered problem. We have to
Yes.
understand where the problem is coming from. So routine jobs, mundane jobs, jobs which have literally no decision making, which are like purely you're doing the same thing in and out, and the data is in place,
Mhm.
and you're adding no creativity, no judgment, no empathy. Those jobs are obviously at risk.
Mhm.
And I think everybody
Okay.
understands that. You know, because of that,
Mhm.
there's a lot of fear. Like even Amazon, see, where is Amazon coming from? Now Amazon, forget about the white collar jobs. The white collar jobs in Amazon, the guys who are doing it are so talented and so skilled that they'll definitely
Yeah.
find an opening either in a similar firm, or they could become you can say subject matter experts. They could train people, they could join another e-commerce
Mhm.
company, they could join a domain company in their functional area. So don't worry about them, they're too talented.
Okay.
Worry about the guys who are not talented. Worry about the guys who are complacent, who are lazy, who don't upskill, who don't learn. That is the problem here. And see, in today's world, it's definitely there is ruthlessness. For people who don't want to learn, for people who want to remain in the dinosaur area, there is a problem. I'll be very honest. But for people who are willing to learn, for people who
Mhm.
are willing to augment their skills, for people who are smart, who are willing to network,
Mhm.
there is no problem. Because see, every technology wave, you start from the steam engine. You
Yeah.
start from the steam engine, you start from the automobiles replacing the horse carriages, start from the industrial automation,
Yeah.
I mean the industrial assembly line, then you go to information technology, the information age, then you go to big data analytics, then you go to machine learning, then you come to AI. Every single technology wave has displaced jobs. It's nothing new. It's nothing new. It's not
Yeah.
happening for the first time. Society is used to it.
Yes.
Industry is used to it. Okay. Second is that every technology wave has created new jobs. Always.
Mhm.
But the reason the displacement happens is because the older jobs, the mundane jobs go out faster, and the newer jobs, they come out at a little more organic pace, because your capability and your adoption happens slower than the phasing out. The phasing out typically happens in batches, but the capability increase, the workflow integration, the AI adoption happens on a slower curve. So the newer jobs definitely come. The difference is they are not the same people. because they're not the same skills, because they're not the same roles. So the reason you see a job displacement is because the new jobs typically come at the higher end of the skill spectrum, whereas the jobs that go, they go at the lower end of the skill spectrum. So how do you straddle that? Is one is by constant learning, constant adaptation, constant resilience, constant upskilling. Okay. Now let me give you also the how part. Okay. So you understood that, to summarize, job displacement is a real factor. Okay. It happens at typically at the lower end of the skill spectrum, where you have mundane stuff happening, or where you have complacency and
Right.
people are not learning. But also remember that the
Hmm.
brilliant opportunities that AI is getting are also real. Don't just look at the problem, look at the possibility. Look at the infinite
Right.
possibilities
Right.
that AI is creating in every domain. So it is that fear in the
Hmm.
person which is making them only look at the problem. So I'm saying look at it in a very balanced manner. Also look at the possibilities. There are
Hmm.
beautiful possibilities coming out of AI. Look at what AI is doing in supply chain. Look at what AI is doing in drug discovery. Look at what AI is doing in
Yeah.
demand
Yeah.
forecasting. Look at what AI is doing in renewable energy. Look at what AI is doing in
Hmm.
sales effectiveness. So it is doing dramatically, positive things. So there are three questions I want to leave the audience with. If you are a student
Okay.
who is struggling to get his first job, or if you're a mid-career professional who's really scared, that mid-career crisis typically happens at 38 to 42. Like if you are in that segment, three
Hmm.
questions ask yourself: which part of my job is predictable? Which part of my job is mundane? Your 100% job typically will not be mundane or predictable. Maybe 20% of your job is predictable and mundane. So you should be aware. That portion of your job can go away. Second question that you need to ask yourself is, which part of my job requires human decision making, interpersonal skills, empathy, collaboration, compassion, judgment? That is the part which is the stronger part. You have to develop that part, because that is the part which brings in human expertise, which AI cannot easily replicate and cannot replace. The third question you need to ask is, which part can be amplified by tools? That is the real, hammer on the nail. Which part can be amplified by tools? Because that can multiply your productivity like 3x, 4x, 5x. That is where your organization will be very, very happy to not just have you in the organization, but to even promote you, to make you an AI trainer, to make you an AI evangelist, an AI champion. And it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it's doable. So look at
Hmm.
opportunity, ask ask yourself these three questions, and work on the answers. Okay. Now let us look at
Okay.
the other side.
Okay.
Let us look at,
Huh?
I've already told you in my previous answer how to look at it from a recruiter's perspective. From a recruiter's perspective, today
Correct.
your job is not transactional anymore. There was a time when HR would have thought that,
Hmm.
our job is transactional. We have to just ensure that the staffing happens on time, and, our job is done.
Hmm.
Now when you're,
Right.
using AI for recruitment, you also are responsible to do it in a responsible manner. That is where responsible AI comes in. So you have to ensure that there is no bias in your algorithms, or the bias is mitigated or handled. You also have to be sensitive, to the other side, the employee or the prospect. Now let us say,
Okay.
you are in L&D, or let us say you are in the skilling business. You have to ensure
Hmm.
that your programs have to be bespoke, and your programs have to be customized
Hmm.
to every domain, to every function, to every sub function. You know, and Blitz is an expert on
Okay.
that, right? So in short, if I summarize, the second part, that how do you not get influenced by the hype? How do you not get afraid because of the FOMO? Don't try to chase every new shiny toy. Don't try to chase every new app. Don't try to chase every new tool. Like, look at how, let's say you're a parent. Do you every day go into a toy shop and buy
Hmm.
every new toy for your child? No, right? No. You buy a
No,
good
no,
toy.
that's not the thing.
You buy a good toy and you train your kid to learn
Yeah.
playing with that toy, to start enjoying that toy, and you let that toy and that learning
Hmm.
experience stabilize for your kid. AI is no different.
Hmm.
You just two or three right tools, two or three high value use cases, and two or three workflows. So basically, but you have
Hmm.
to use it daily. Now, if you're an employee or if you're a student, you have to use it daily. You have to build a context
Mhm.
around it so that it becomes your muscle memory. It's like exercise. Exercise only gives you gains when you have muscle memory on that exercise. Like whether it is gymming, whether it is running,
Correct.
you need to build a DNA, a muscle memory. Similarly, when you're using AI, when you're learning AI, when you're learning new tools, when you're learning new skills, it has to become a muscle
Mhm.
memory. And it becomes a muscle memory only when you do it daily,
Okay.
right? And when you understand what is relevant to your role, when you understand what is relevant to your qualification in education, and you learn it practically, you know, right? And for leaders, the leaders
Mhm.
who already are good at all this, they have to demonstrate that to their teams, how they are doing. They have to share their lived experience with their
Yes.
teams. That is the true leadership. Leadership is not letting people go. Leadership is not asking HR to automate recruitment. Leadership is showing your organization how to implement AI in the right manner and how to execute responsible AI. That is leadership's responsibility.
Yes, I agree on one point which you mentioned, that whenever new technology is introduced, it has some sort of resistance, and it is always new and we have to just learn it. And that brings me to the digital marketing section. Like it just started booming in last 10 years. Before that, when it was introduced, many people were hesitant, many organizations were hesitant to just accept the fact that it is going digital now.
So digital marketing actually has been one of the best, you can say, areas where analytics, big data, and AI have had a tremendous impact. I mean, digital marketing was one of, you can say, the fastest to adopt, you know, and that is because, I mean, you have to really understand the entire marketing and media ecosystem. Obviously, I cannot go into that much right now because then that will become a different discussion from the one we are having. But point is that the word digital, focus on the word digital. Marketing was one of the first functions to get digitized. And what does it mean by being digital? It means that you have cleaned your data, you started cleaning your data, you started collecting the right data, and you know the right metrics. So, like, look at the metrics in digital marketing. You have conversion of your campaign, you return on your advertising spend, your customer behavior, you track user journeys, you see where the drop offs happening. You measure your CSAT. So basically, because marketing has, even traditionally, look at marketing 30 years back, marketing was always at the forefront of measurement. The reason marketeers always used to take pride in number crunching, even in Excel days. So marketing guys are always the best in Excel. They are the best in measurement. That is the reason marketing function was one of the foremost in analytics. And so as technology progressed, as we were able to get big data streams, and then of course social media. Social media is the big technology and social revolution where you get such rich click streams, rich web streams, and all that data can be crunched because of your tech stacks in seconds, in minutes, and translated into relevant dashboards. But finally, even with digital marketing, even digital marketing has a deluge of KPIs, has a deluge of tools, has the same problems that AI is facing today. Digital marketing has faced 5, 7 years back. What is the problem? Tool sprawl. Too many tools, confusing metrics, too many metrics. So I would give very simple solution. When you make a dashboard, irrespective whether you're a digital marketing guy or whether you're a manufacturing guy, one dashboard needs to have one clear owner. you know that is very important. That keeps the data clean, that keeps the frequency updated, that keeps the data fresh, and one clear metric, one clear north star metric, that keeps your big picture intact, so you don't get drowned in data. You know what is the decision I want to take from this dashboard. That one dashboard, one owner, one metric, that is a universal principle that can apply not just in digital marketing but in AI as well.
That was a clarification of like how the digital transformation has happened in last 2 to 2 decades, and how the AI would might be looking like.
See, AI is very different from digital transformation. You have to understand AI slightly more evolved from digital transformation. Why? Because see, understand that digital transformation mostly in a lot of organizations already happened. Like most of your organizations have a sorted out ERP system. They have some kind of CRM. It could be legacy, it could be home made, or it could be a vendor driven or a partner driven. But Largely, you can see organizations have a very decent ERP stack, have a very decent CRM stack, and most of the big organizations also have a very robust CDP in place, customer data platform. The progressive organizations also have data harmonization in place. They have either a data cloud or a data lakehouse architecture in place. And most of the organizations, know now how to straddle hybrid clouds, work between data centers and clouds, handle microservices. So there is a lot of maturity which has come in because of all that transformation. But what is the key thing in AI? This AI is more business. AI is more business. It is less IT, more business. People don't understand this. See, why is AI so hot? Why is AI so rapidly increasing? AI is more business. It is closer to business. It helps your sales. It helps your product development. It helps your manufacturing. Look at the use cases which are very successful in AI. You have manufacturing use cases like defect reduction, like anomaly detection. You have supply chain use cases like routing, like reduction in the turnaround time of your trucks. And you have vision use cases like in high street fashion, in retail, and like you have use cases in IT service management, in customer support, your latency going down, your tag going down, and fintech we already discussed, like your compliance tracking, your fraud detection, and then healthcare, your triage, helping radiologists, because radiologists are the most busy professionals on the planet. So see, the beauty about AI is that AI is at the heart of business. It is at the heart of decision making, and it basically, AI is promising you reframing intelligence at scale. Digital transformation was not driving intelligence the way AI is driving it. Digital transformation was driving digitalization. It was enabling dashboards. It was enabling flow of information. It was still leaving decision support and decision making to humans. AI is possibly the first technology which is trying to automate decision making and decision support. And that is why it has to be handled carefully and systematically. Okay, secondly, AI by design is not meant to replace humans. It is meant to augment humans. The whole philosophy, if you listen to pioneers like Jeffrey Hinton, like the people at Stanford Human Centered Design, they will never talk about AI replacing humans. All the evangelists of AI, even people like people who have signed the Safe AI letter, and who are not really proponents of ASI, what are they saying? That the core principle, the core philosophy behind AI was to augment humans, augment decision making, augment intelligence, not replace humans. The third aspect of what makes AI so exciting is that, like, unlike digital transformation used to be a budget thing. It used to be a cost driver in the organization. It used to take 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, sometimes 20 years to get the ROI of digital transformation. AI is not like that. In AI, if you do the right things, you can get your ROI within months, within quarters. If you attack the right use cases, if you integrate workflows, if you skill your employees, and if you track the right metrics and have decision loops, AI can give you ROI in flat 6 months, even if you've never done AI before. Because AI is not a cost play. AI is a decision play. It is to drive your revenue up. It is to free your manpower from mundane stuff and take executive decisions. It is to liberate you out of their drudgery and monotony and get to the solving the biggest customer problems, the biggest pain points, basically improve your margins and productivity.
You just gave me a broader perspective to look at AI because I was using AI for a longer period now, but I didn't see this coming. Like, yeah, it is all about business. It is not just a piece of technology.
Absolutely. It is technology is an enabler always. Technology is going to solve the how problem. It is not going to solve the why and what problem. The why and what problem has to always solved by business.
Making it a bit more technical, uh, I just want to ask, like, you have spoken about the small language models, right? Like we have this large language model thing in on the internet, around the news channels and media, but very few people are talking about small language models. So can you just explain it for our viewers, and like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that's a very, very pertinent question for small and medium businesses because simply because, see, when you're an owner of a small firm, you're very, very ROI driven, you're very budget conscious, very price sensitive because you have to manage a lot of things. Like you have to manage your payroll, you have to manage your core processes. You cannot just burn big money on AI project and then realize, okay, what did I achieve out of it, right? So it's never going to happen because a typical small medium business owner is also risk averse, and while they are very tech savvy, but still they're very ROI savvy as well. And see why AI feels unreachable to many small businesses because the whole concept of the big model, which we call as the LLM, the large language model. Now, why is it large? Because it has been trained on the almost on the entire internet, the entire knowledge of the world. Whether it is Wikipedia or whether it is all the open websites, the open articles. Now, it's like consider that as a Ferrari. And your use case as a small and medium owner, you may not need a Ferrari. You may just need a bike, right? So you don't take a Ferrari where you take a bike, right? For example, if you are in a crowded market in a street, you won't take a Ferrari. You'll just get jammed, right? So the point is that the horses for courses strategy really works here. SLM is a brilliant innovation because it's more affordable. It's even more accurate if done properly, and it's definitely you can say a tactic, right strategy for a small and medium business, right? So let's say you have a small
Okay.
200% manufacturing business in Pune, for example. Because you spoke about manufacturing, let's take a manufacturing
Hmm.
example. And Pune, we know, is the Detroit of India. Like there are a lot of small auto component companies, a lot of manufacturing companies in Pune. So a large
Yes.
language model
Yeah.
literally is,
Yeah, absolutely.
a large language model is very expensive for them, and it's an overkill, and it's very
Hmm.
data
Hmm.
hungry. It's very data hungry. So what happens is that if you don't give
Yes.
it the right data, it hallucinates a lot, and it is also disconnected from your privacy needs of a small business, from your local workflow. Whereas a small language model is the mirror opposite. It is light, it is focused, it is trainable
Mm-hmm.
on your data. You can actually train it on your domain corpora, things like invoices, your SOPs, your if you have any case studies or if you have any transaction data. Basically think of it like an AI apprentice. You're hiring an apprentice, but instead of a human apprentice, you're hiring an AI apprentice. Your
Huh.
cost is going down by almost 70 to 80%. You can run it on a local machine, so you can run it even on a local server. You don't need to run it on
Uh-huh.
a high-end server or a cloud server. You can run it on a local server.
Mm-hmm.
And the best part is that data doesn't
Mm-hmm.
leave your environment. Now, the new DPDP guidelines, if you're in a regulated industry, there are very tight norms on data residency, and data cannot leave your local premises. So, if you're in that kind of a business,
Oh.
it is very, very good to have a combination of a small model running on an edge device. You know, so one of the other reason also, see, software and hardware always go in tandem. So what has happened is that there's one more reason the small language models are more and more getting adopted and more getting accepted
Mm-hmm.
is because one, they are highly accurate. Initially, like in 2000, you can say 22 and 23, you would not have heard of small language models so much. You started hearing about small language models
Mm-hmm.
only from mid 24, and now actually 2025 is the year where the small language model is broken through because now there are techniques. You have a
Mm-hmm.
distillation technique. You have where you have a student training model learning from a teacher
Okay.
training a teacher model, and then you have model compression techniques where basically you use techniques which do not sacrifice accuracy for latency, so you get much better latency, you without sacrificing too
Mm-hmm.
much accuracy. And there are a number of researchers that your performance does not degrade beyond 1 or 2%, but you gain a lot in terms of latency, fast response, and you can make it your domain centric and privacy centric model basically. And coming to
Okay.
let's say an auto component guy. I'll give you a simple use case that even a common person,
Mm-hmm.
layperson can understand.
Okay.
So let's say you are a auto component
Mm-hmm.
manufacturer and you make auto components. So basically you have a lot of maintenance logs. Like any manufacturing business will have a lot of maintenance going on in their parts, and you have a lot of maintenance logs. And that is very rich training data that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And that data is obviously not available on the internet. That is your proprietary data. So basically, the advantage is you take a small language model, you train it on your local server, you give it this 4 years of maintenance logs, and you can even do multilingual. You can, like, for example, you have recorded conversations of your customers and your dealers and your distributors in Hindi, in English, and Marathi. You can use that. You have your repair summaries. You have your, you don't even need I mean, at places where internet is not regular, you can use edge devices. So where there is even intermittent, internet coverage, your edge device will continue the operation. There's no data risk, and your productivity. Like I have seen in the use case that we implemented, the productivity jumped by 18%. Just by using the local data, the data of the company. The things like maintenance logs, repair summaries. So this is your quite power of small models. And you can even run it on open source. You don't need to literally have a proprietary model from a large language player. You can literally run it on open source. But one thing, being mindful, small business owners, sometimes they cut corners. Cutting corners won't help. So you can't just budget for training. You also have to budget that tomorrow if the market changes, the customer behavior changes, or the distributor's behavior changes aligned to the market, for whatever reason, the technology of that auto part changed, or the pricing change, you have to be agile. So the moment your model drifts or your data drifts, you have to have your data hygiene, and you have to have a feedback loop, and you have to retrain your model. So and you need to have those kind of guardrails. So you need to have a slightly bigger budget, even with a small language model, to make sure that your decisions are explainable to your team, so that they don't think it's a black box. They know what is happening. They feel confident. They feel secure. And the moment the data drifts or the model drifts and it comes to your notice through the feedback loops, you are able to retrain the model.
So that's the basic process which you would recommend to just go through and be in the right flow.
So don't chase the biggest model. Chase the model which is closest to your need, right? And customize it. Customize it to your domain. Customize it to your use case.
Focus on your needs, basic needs. That's it.
Always start with the business problem. Never start with the model. Always start with the business problem.
Okay, so core problems at first, and then the larger things.
So before sophistication, you can't jump to sophistication. Like today, let's say you're a normal company, you can't jump to sophistication immediately, right? You need to take baby steps.
So next question is about your education. Like you're pursuing a doctorate in GenAI, as you mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah.
So while running a business, so just brief us, like you are on the edge of like both a practitioner as well as a deep researcher and learner. So what is the single most surprising thing you have learned from your academics research that you believe every business leader needs to know today?
Yeah, that's a very good question. See, obviously, AI is a very fast-moving field and very technical field also. Like while I said that it's close to business, but still it's technology, right? So any technology will come up with its technical stuff. So the reason I went for my doctorate is obviously to be a global expert on AI. Now, having said that, coming to your question, right, the biggest, and I would say not just surprising, but also humbling learning and insight from all my research work that I have done for the last 1 year, and the work that I'm doing now in energy transition. So my major research is in energy transition, which is a very, very fundamental subject, but I have seen this learning across domains, is that the AI maturity has nothing to do with model sophistication. People don't understand this. They keep running after models. The AI maturity is almost everything to do with organizational dynamics and the organizational DNA, right? Your mindset, your team's mindset, your organizational culture, and the processes. So what makes the organization DNA and dynamic? It's the people, the process, and the purpose. And that's where, if you see, the entire Blitz story comes together there, where that we are grounded in research. So there is a purpose, and we understand how people learn. So people are at the center of it. People is not at the periphery of it. People are at the center of it. Now, a lot of AI vendors and AI players make AI at the center of it, and they forget about people. Actually, people are at the center of it. And that is why organizational dynamics, your entire scalability, your entire adoption is a function of organizational dynamics and organizational DNA.
Okay.
Which is a function of your purpose, your people, your readiness of your people, the skills of your people, the mindset of your people, and the workflow integration and the workflow redesign in your processes. Now let me unpack it a little. So
Okay.
I'll give you a very simple example. No state-of-the-art model can replace your learning agility, right? Let us assume you had crazy amount of budget in your company and you got the best possible model, the most advanced model that is possible today. And after that, your organization possibly stopped learning. What will happen? The model will drift.
Yeah.
The data will drift.
Yes.
Soon your model's accuracy will go down. Soon your customers will start experiencing the fallouts of that.
Yes.
And if your competitors are more agile, even with a slightly lesser sophisticated model, they'll beat you because they're more agile. They're listening to the customer. They're closer to the market. They are analyzing the findings, the insights. Their ears are on the ground. So nothing replaces that agility. Nothing replaces that adaptability.
Adaptability is the thing. Yes.
So that is very, very important. So basically, we always have to think that technology does not work by itself. You have to make the technology work. Right? Like look at the automobile industry. Just because an engine is more powerful than another engine, you don't find people just buying the car because that engine was like a few bhp more. People look at several things. They look at the interiors, they look at the safety, they look at the infotainment system, the navigation system, the technology, the reputation, the service network, the dealer network, the after sale. Right? So,
yes.
So the point is that it's the same thing. The engine in the car is same as the model in the AI factory. So it's not that the model is not important. Obviously, engine is important to a car, but then there are other factors.
It is not the only thing. It is not the only thing.
So don't get over obsessed with it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Don't get over obsessed with it. Now, the second aspect, which you will also relate being an employee, is that let's say you got insights from AI. You actually were able to execute a good AI pipeline. Your data was also clean. You had the data hygiene. You were able to get insights. Your work does not stop there. You have to take decisions. The problem is in decision fatigue and decision latency. People don't take decisions. They sit on data. They sit on dashboards. Similarly, human behavior, they will continue to sit on AI insights also. Unless your mindset and culture change, and this I'm talking even at the leadership level. So what happens is, I'm sure you know this statistic that less than 5% of the entire data in the world is actually scrubbed, analyzed for decision making. The rest is just sitting there. So the point is that it is not even 80-20 rule. It is like 95-5 rule. So that is not how AI works. Once you have the insights, you have to connect it by integrating your workflows and skilling your people to take decisions basis that.
Okay.
And for that, responsible AI is very critical. You need to follow the guardrails. You need to preserve privacy. You need to be compliant with the law. You need to have safety of consumers. You need to have, filters, moderation. You need to have trust layer. See, business is equal to trust. And AI is close to business. So AI has to be close to trust. And that trust comes when humans take decisions. And humans takes better decisions because AI enables them to take better decisions.
Okay. Yeah.
So that it is important that not just the speed of your model and the speed of your insight, also the speed of your decision is important. So it's like your engine could be 10 bhp less smarter, but if you drive more safely and you drive better, you have a better driving experience. Same thing. If you start taking better decisions, faster decisions, your experience with AI will be better.
So it is about the adaptability and ability to utilize it as per your needs.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. Let's say your decision making time is 7 days. The moment you crunch it to 5 days, you will get an infinite more value than getting a better model, the next level of model. But people don't do that. People don't do that because that is difficult. Because you need to involve cross-functional teams, you need to redefine processes, you need to optimize, you need to question yourself, you need to be humble, you need to learn. It's very easy to buy a model. I mean, it's just a drop down. In your tool, you just, or in your layer where your data scientist or your machine learning engineer is working, you just choosing from 3.5 to 4. That takes 1 second. But your decision latency going down by 1 day or 2 days is going to give you huge business value.
Right. It just reduces your ability to compete in the market, and someone just goes ahead,
Exactly.
and you just loses in the competition.
So that is the learning from that research and doctoral study,
Mhm.
going really deep.
So you don't just read and have the knowledge. Try to utilize it as quick as possible.
and and you see this all the time. The decision fatigue and decision latency is like too much. It's a big problem.
So just moving ahead, like we often hear leaders say, coaching is great, but how do we measure the impact? Like, see, measuring ROI for coaching and skilling programs is a tough thing. So, what's your take on this? Like, what metrics do you think matter beyond attendance or satisfaction scores?
See, the first thing is that you need to very carefully blend, practical, you can say, work related assignments, work related, go further than the assignment also. Like, literally, uh, a mirror of the use case in a slightly smaller manner to make it relatable, because the employee will not immediately build a 100% skill that you're teaching or training them or coaching them. But the point is that to give them a slice of life, a slice of reality. So whatever you've learned, you'll forget in a month, if you don't apply it, first of all. So you have to immediately start applying. Second is, what happens in many training programs and skilling programs is that while they go on for months and months, suddenly there's an engagement drop. You can't have an engagement drop. That, now, of course, you can't do it with humans. Humans may not have the bandwidth. That is where you have to intelligently use technology and process the combination and metrics. So let's look at technology. You have answer in AI and Gen AI. Let's look at it in terms of process. You need to make sure that the post the training is over, post the skilling is over, the employee or the learner is tested on the skills that they have gained in a real constrained environment, in the constraints of the workplace, not in some idealistic manner, in a very practical manner, giving them the constraints. Like a simple example, build a prototype. So you can easily build a prototype on using a simple tool like Google Colab. You can easily, or using some Python API, or a low code, no code tool like Nine, you can easily build a small, workflow, or like now N10 is very popular in AI workflows. So I'm saying, depending on the complexity of your use case, in any of these tools, and I'm just giving very few examples, you can use vibe coding tools like Cursor. There's so many tools. The problem is not the tools. The problem is your attitude. You need to implement what you have learned in your respective work area, knowing the constraints of your workplace, working with feasible data, clean data, having the data discipline, converting that into a pipeline, and then making sure that whatever model and pipeline you've built, there is also evaluation happening. And that evaluation needs human in the loop. That evaluation needs sometimes LLM as a judge. That evaluation needs sometimes the right metrics, like you said, metrics. So before you start, you should have at least one or two metrics very clear. One is obviously a simple metric is to start is hygiene. Hygiene is how many learners completed the program. Now that, of course, in a well governed training rhythm, you will have a pretty decent score. Like unlike edtech, so if you see the edtech course completion rate is pathetic. I can't even mention it here because I have clients there. I
Like
can't
for
even
real.
mention the edtech course completion rate is very very low, very very low. It's pathetic. I can't even mention it here, for reasons of that some of them are my clients. But why is the physical training in office so successful? Because the completion rate is very high. It is in like high 80% or 90%, but the engagement cannot drop off. So the metrics have to be post training engagement driven, post training prototypes, assignments, workflow driven, and look at the percentage of training that was applied by the employee. It's not easy, but it's doable. It's doable.
Okay. It is.
For
It is.
example,
Yeah.
for example, it's simple that you have a shared Google Drive, and once the employees finish their prototype, they just put the files there, or they can use a Git repository and they can share the links with you. Like if they've done a project in Git and they've committed it there, they can share the links with you, and you're able to access it as the L&D manager or as the project head of this learning assignment, and you can see, and you can even use AI to judge what they have done, because AI is also a very good reviewer when used properly. Like you can use a tool like Perplexity AI, and the pro version of that. I'm saying there are good tools which do not hallucinate or which hallucinate less, and you can use that. And point is that it needs commitment. Point is that it needs passion. It's not like, my job was to train 100 people and I have done it and I'll go home. It doesn't work like that, boss. You have to be connected with those employees. You have to see whether that training was effective, whether they started implementing in their workplace. Has it changed something in them? Has it started changing their mindset? Are they more open to learning new technologies? Are they more conversant with the lingo of that technology? And are they more fluent? That is where, AI fluency, it sums it all. AI fluency. And that is where Blitz is a champion, in AI fluency.
Okay. And like you just reminded me of something, like a quote which says that if I have most lazy people in my team, I know they will like it just says like that they will be more productive and creative enough to complete the task efficiently. So AI is that assistant or tool which will help those lazy people to just make sure their task is completed efficiently and quickly.
No, but I'm not sure if, see, AI is not a solution for lazy people. I won't put it like that. Yes, I think to reframe what you're saying, AI will bring those people a little up than where they would have been given their mindset, but they cannot ever beat the proactive people and the smart people who know how to leverage AI as a tool. And AI is not telling you to be lazy. And if you are in that bracket, I'm telling you, you will lose your cognitive sense, you lose your critical thinking ability. That is not how to use AI. AI is supposed to make you sharper, smarter, and you have to start doing higher order thinking. So let's say you were at we have levels of leadership, right?
Yes.
I'll simplify it for you and the audience. That let's say your junior level, your middle management, your senior management, your C-level leadership, your board level leadership. Just as an analogy, I'm just giving you an example because you understand that well and the audience understands that well. So if you are at junior level, AI as a tool will bring you to mid-level very easily.
Okay.
If you use it in the right manner. So it's not about being lazy. It's about that in 8 hours, let's say I was able to do 100 with using AI properly, I can do 250 to 300.
Right.
That is the spirit. Out of that 250 to 300, 50 to 60 I can give to my personal passion, my family, my work-life balance, but 200 should go back to my work. That is when I will improve my level of leadership.
Yeah.
And leadership is just one example. It applies to your thinking skill, your cognitive skill, your creativity, any dimension of learning.
So that's the answer. It is not for the lazy people. It is for the creative and adaptive people.
It is for everybody, but it is not supposed to make you lazy. It is supposed to empower you. And it is supposed to grow you. It is supposed to empower you. You have to be AI empowered.
AI empowering, yes. That's the core thing, like a lot of leaders have told in their interviews.
It's a very simple thing. Think like this. Did the internet make you lazy? No.
No.
Did the content revolution, social media make you lazy? Did the smartphone make you lazy? So why will AI make you lazy?
It's how you use it, how you see it.
But you will be found out very soon. Your managers and your leaders are smart enough to figure out that sooner or later, and the metrics will become sharper and sharper. So you cannot beat the system. The system is also learning AI like how, and system is also upgrading itself.
Yes.
So shadow AI can work for some time. Ultimately, shadow AI and enterprise AI has to merge into a very productive way of empowering the individual also and the organization also.
As you spoke about the people, like you emphasize, like it is about the people. So let's bring it all together and just tell me, your philosophy is people, purpose, and process, right? So in this age of artificial intelligence, which of those three P's is the hardest to get right and why?
In the short term, people is always the hardest because people is your first stumbling block. See, process, you understand, process is not independent of people anytime. So obviously people will come first and people will give you change resistance, human resistance, fear, anxiety, and hearsay, lack of knowledge, lack of skill. So first, The first stumbling block is always we people. But we have, throughout this podcast, we've discussed how to navigate that, the playbooks for that. Purpose is always more difficult at a strategic level. If you look at it, the big picture, long term, purpose is always the hardest. Like, if forget about AI, talk about life. If you talk, even some 70-year-old people don't know the purpose of life and their purpose of work. I mean, they'll simply say we work because we wanted to earn money, right? And we wanted to earn a living. I mean, the point is that we spoke about levels of leadership. So there is levels of purpose. You can have transactional purpose. You can have creative purpose. Like, how do you grow in life? You first learn how to do a job. Then you learn how to do a job very well. Then you become a leader. You become a manager. You get employees under you. Then you become a supervisor. Then you become a coach, a trainer, and then you become a department head, a function head, a business head. So you grow in life, right? So why do you keep growing in life? Because you keep expanding your purpose in small steps, in bite steps. Purpose is a very heavy word, but if you want to understand purpose, just think of goals. Your goals keep changing as you grow in life, as you grow in age, stage, life stage, stature, as you increase your knowledge, your skill, your ability to understand your own self, your self-awareness goes up. Your goals becoming more and more aligned to your purpose, even if you can't articulate that purpose. But even if you don't want to relate to the heavy word purpose, simply relate to goals. Everybody understands goals. And goals are the most beautiful thing out there. They are measurable, they are relevant, you can specify them in a simple sentence, they are specific, right? So basically, just think of that as goals. Ultimately, if you think of purpose as goals, goals give you the direction of where to invest your time, energy. So even when on your AI journey, where to put AI in your workplace, where to put your energy in AI, what to learn, and how to. So it will all come when you have goals, right? So purpose will always be the toughest, because when you are in that madness, or when you're in that chaos, and when you are running, it's difficult to know how you're running. But that's why you have to take a step back, reflect, take feedback from your colleagues, from your bosses, managers, go out, study, educate yourself, take courses, short courses, medium courses, and that will give you that reflective mindset to understand, am I, achieving my goals? Am I following the right process? And I am becoming a better person through all that, right? And that is how your people purpose process merge, and make that impact, that you're looking for.
That was really a good conversation, which I was expecting to be like that. Like we went so deep with some of the questions initially, and I'm sure our viewers, our audience will gain some sort of knowledge, and definitely they will be able to utilize it properly, the knowledge which you have shared. Thank you so much, Rahul, for this conversation and your insights on AI and the changing transition, like the transition of leadership in the business environment.
Thank you for having me here. And it's absolutely a pleasure. Thank you.
And I would love to have more conversation with you on this topic, because we have just initiated the initial phase of this industry, and this is going to change in a drastic manner within, I guess, next 1 year. And
Absolutely.
Even 80
one of the reasons is also because you know the challenges, but you don't know the pace at which that challenge is going to hit you, the gravity of the challenge. So that everybody has to learn, and we have to evolve as it hits us.
And the coach, the guide like you will always help people like us to how to navigate through these challenges and how to be at the top or at the proper level where we should be and just survive in the market.
I'll just leave you probably two terms, audience: disciplined execution and continuous learning. If you can follow that mantra, you can beat everything. Disciplined execution and continuous learning.
Yes. So I guess our audience has noted that disciplined learning is the core thing if you want to survive and grow in your life, in your career. So thank you so much, Rahul, for this lovely conversation.